other guys that I mean, I've obviously dated guys before you. And
What?
I also was that kid that played with matches, caught my room on fire. My brother would piss me off. I'd go get a butcher knife and shove it underneath the door and try to stab him when he locked me out of the house. I did a lot of stuff.
Help.
Well, I didn't know that this guy was set up to be my double date. So
I literally thought we were there to double date. I was informed on the other end of this from my friend and from the girl that she's talking about that this girl knew I was coming. Alysha being this girl. So I was lied to. All right, what's up, guys? Guess what? I get to interview my beautiful wife, and you guys get to see a little bit behind the scenes. Alysha doesn't post a lot on social media, but you are very active in our lives. So, of course, I love you being here and putting you on the spot. Yeah. And she's a team player. So I appreciate you doing the interview, babe. I love it that you're here doing this with me. And I think the people need to know a little bit more about you. And so let's start at the very beginning. Where do you come from? And who is Alysha Hancock?
Oh, Lord. Well, where I come from, a little town outside of Edmond, Oklahoma. I don't even know how far. I mean, how big is Luther? What would you say?
How many people did you graduate high school with?
I think, what did I graduate with? I think like 48.
Yeah, 48 people?
So there's only one gas station in the town, so it was pretty small. I mean, maybe at that time, when I graduated high school, like in 06, it was like 1,500 people.
Yeah.
I should say. I don't know what it is now, but.
Yeah. So you come from Luther, and you grew up there your entire life?
Whole life.
Never
family,
moved.
Everybody lived within a mile. You know.
What kind of family? You have like other family members? There's just your like your mom and dad?
Mom and dad, cousins, aunt, uncles, grandparents.
There you go.
Mom's side, you know.
Yeah.
It was always just everything on my mom's side. Pretty small town. It's a really good way to grow up. It's fun. I mean, you can get in a lot of trouble, but everybody knows each other in a small town, especially. I mean, you will know what cop is on duty. That's how small it was. My family owned the only gas station in town. It was called Jake's. That's actually where my parents met growing up.
At the gas station?
At the gas station. I don't know how old my mom was, but yeah, it was in my family for like 30-ish years before we sold it. I think we sold it right when I turned 20.
Yeah. Why was it called Jake's?
My papa's name. So yeah, it was awesome. A Conoco, but it was named Jake's.
I remember the sign. So before I ever met you,
Jake's
know, going through Luther, you'd see the Jake's sign. It was also on that bridge that they had demo.
Yeah, it was painted on a big, on that bridge.
Right on Highway 66.
Yeah. So grew up in the store. I mean, from little bitty until I was standing on milk crates, running cash register. We've had all kinds of family fun memories in that store growing up. Really built the foundation of our family together. I mean, working and living really close with family has its ups and downs, but I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. My cousins were like my brothers. And then graduated in 06, so I was 18, and then went to college, still lived at home, and then quickly, a couple of years later, then I met you at a co-ed softball game.
That's a fast timeline, though. Going back to you growing up in Luther, what were some of the things that you did for fun? What were some of the things that it was a daily life for you living in a smaller town of Oklahoma? I've graduated with almost 46-ish people, 48 people.
Yeah. So, I mean, outside of school and sports, I mean, summers were always in our family. We went down to the lake a lot. So my family has still to this day has a lake house at Eufaula, and then working at the gas station. So we would, for fun, I mean, going fishing, going to ponds, going mudding, four-wheeling, hunting is pretty big. My family's very active in anything outdoors. Just probably doing a lot of active stuff, trying not to get in too much trouble.
Yeah, a lot of trouble too. Though.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find yourself a lot of trouble in small towns, you know.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
And so you traveled to Edmond often? I mean, you guys didn't have a grocery store for the most part. Where was the local grocery store? Yeah, this is how small of a town it is, and I'm asking these questions to hope prompt some thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, we had a little bit of produce in our store, not too far.
Yeah.
But once a month deal. Yeah.
How are you raised? Like, what's... I mean, I know I'm asking these questions because I know the answers to them, but I want everybody else to know the answers to them. Like food and dinner and family environment.
My family grew up raising cattle. My grandpa was very passionate about cattle and just farming. And then my dad raised my brother and I to go hunting and fishing. So we've always butchered our own meat, cows and deer. Lots of fishing in the summer too as well. Everybody in my family does trout lines and all the things. So we've always had fresh meat for sure. So that was a big part of raising. So it was nice. So I got spoiled for sure, not knowing it at that
I mean,
time.
when I met you, I knew that you had gone hog hunting with your brother. But when I met you, you had a 4-wheeler.
4-wheeler and a
You
tandem
traded
bed.
in your truck. You'd gotten rid of your pickup truck at that time. You'd had a Jeep when I met you.
Like literally a week before I met you, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
My transmission went out, I think.
So tell us more about what a country girl does to survive out in Luther, Oklahoma. I mean, you have a bow. We still have carried the bow all the way here to California. So you've shot a bow. You have a Matthews.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of bonfires. My older brother, he's 4 years older, so always right behind him and seeing what he's doing. UFC fights on the weekends. I mean, it was just bonfires and just getting together. We'd either go to the river growing up or go to the pond. I mean, it's really everything was outdoors hanging out
Good
or a
old
house
redneck
party.
stuff.
Yeah, or go back road and find an old dirt bar to go hang out. So
Old dirty bar. Yeah, hole
like
in the
dirt
wall.
floor bars. Yeah,
There's a few out there in Oklahoma, especially on 66. There's some out there.
go out north.
So rewind a little bit. Tell us about Jake's and how your grandfather, I mean, this guy that owns cattle and owns a gas station. I mean, for the rest of us, tell us about how that comes about. Tell us about your grandpa.
So my grandpa came over from Germany in, I don't know what year it was, but I'm pretty sure he was 21, 22. I don't know fully on how he picked Oklahoma on coming down here, but he came here with big dreams of wanting a farm and raising a family, and so that was pretty big to him. And he, along on the journey came my grandparents. They shipped over here from Europe together, so it took him about a month to get here. So he came over with both of his parents and then his 2 sisters and brother, and so which we all live pretty close.
Where did he come over from?
Europe. So he came from Germany.
He's from Germany?
Yes.
So is he 100% German?
Yes, but yeah, he had big dreams of a farm, and so he bought 80 acres, and he bought 112 acres, and then he bought and sold a lot of acreage along the way, and he built the store actually.
Yeah.
Ended up being the gas station. For that, he built the town car wash and a lot of masonry work, and then also built our family church.
Family church or like the town church?
It was our family, but friends came as well,
Yeah.
which I sold that not too long ago actually.
Did you sell it as a church though, or just
As the building.
Yeah.
But that was really cool growing up in a church that my grandpa built and preached at. And then also my uncle preached as well.
What religion? What kind of church?
Lutheran. And
Lutheran and Lutheran?
Isn't that funny? Lutheran and a
Yeah,
Lutheran
that is funny.
town. So that was always cool. Good memories of church and Nina playing the piano and, Easter egg hunting outside.
About what age are you right now about that thought? Like when you're going to church and the Easter egg hunting and going outside, how old are you?
I would say our girls' age, so probably anywhere from 6 to 8 for sure.
Yeah.
It kind of fizzled out probably around right after I got 9 probably. 'Cause my grandparents are older. My mom was the youngest born, so there's a big age gap, and so they started health-wise.
Grandpa, Papa, and
Everybody started kind of not going downhill, but life happens. And
health issues, yeah.
And so the church, we weren't as involved as much as I remember. Ended up leasing out the church. Another religion came in. I don't remember which kind.
Yeah.
But
unfortunately, I never got to meet him.
I forget how old I was when Nina passed. I think I was 16 and my grandpa passed when I was 21.
Wow.
2 days after my 21st birthday.
That's wild. They were young too, relatively young, if I remember correctly, or no?
Yeah. Nina was, I believe, in her 60s and Papa was in his 70s.
Yeah. Cool. So tell us a little bit more about your dad and your mom and your dynamic with that. And
So my dad's from another small town right outside of Luther. Met at a gas station. They went to, high school sweethearts. My dad's a little bit older. He's 4 years older, I believe. And then right outside of graduation with my mom, they got married. So I believe she was married at 18. And then I think had my brother at 20, I believe. But they were married for 13 years.
Yeah. Your parents and my parents are very similar in age. Really close.
Born
They're
in
not the same age.
63 and
Yeah, your
64.
mom and my dad are the same age, yeah.
Or 63, and then I think my dad was born 60 or 59, yeah. So they were pretty close.
And your dad, tell us a little bit about your dad's history, because I don't think you look German.
No, so my dad's side, he was adopted from Seoul, Korea when he was, I believe, 8. My grandparents that adopted him were stationed in Korea, and my grandmother, Mima, worked in the orphanage. Yeah, she would volunteer a lot. So I came really close with this sweet little boy, and they ended up fostering him and bringing him back with them to a small town in Wilson, Oklahoma. He only knew Korean when he came, so that was a learning curve, but he was a little
So your dad didn't know English when you came here?
No, he's,
Wow.
think about it,
How
8 years
was he?
old. He was 8. I believe,
Wow.
yeah. He still knows has flashbacks of like what it smelled like there and everything. I mean,
8 years old. I mean, that's about our age. I moved as a kid, and the age that our oldest
sure.
daughter moved out here.
He doesn't remember any of the language or anything, but for sure remembers, fond memories of like, I mean, he didn't have great memories. His mother was in prison for opium, and then he was raised by his grandfather, which did not take very good care of him, hence why he was in the orphanage.
And he is he's 50% Korean. He's not 100% Korean.
Correct. So his mother got with a American soldier.
In the Korean War. Mm-hmm. And he had 50% Korean and 50% American.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what's funny is like obviously our oldest daughter has red hair. Your brother has red hair. And so we've traced it all the way back to that one thought. At least that's where we think it is. But our perception is that the red hair comes from.
Well, yeah, my dad did that, was at the ancestry, whatever testing, and we found him. It was a couple of years back. So, yeah, he's not alive anymore, but he definitely has the red hair.
Your brother has red hair, has fair skin.
It's pretty wild. I was kind of weirded out by that, taking that test, but it definitely came back.
Yeah. Cool. So anything else you want to dive into in growing up? How do you go from Luther, Oklahoma? People probably don't know the map. We just had 30 minutes from Edmond, where I grew up.
Yeah. Sure.
We didn't know each other. So a little bit about our dynamic in general is Alysha and I didn't know each other all through, our growing up at all. So, we actually, first time we ever met, I believe she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I was 22 or 23 when we met for the first time, right? Yeah. So going all the way through Luther, tell us some experiences. What's some pros and cons of growing up in a small town? And obviously we've moved fast forward real quick to San Diego, California, where we are now shooting this podcast in our living room. And so that's a big change. We're talking quite a bit of a geographical change and also just a cultural change. What are some things that, were some pros and cons about living and growing up in a small town, and where was your mind at? And did you want to stay there? Obviously not, but like,
yeah.
What got you there?
Con-wise, really, maybe the education probably wasn't the best.
Just like a public education?
Yeah, just from jumping from high school to college, I really realized how far behind I was.
Wow.
But other than that, like the experiences in the towns and everything, it was so fun. I really wouldn't take any of it back.
It's shaped who you are.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Of course not.
Well, and I've had a lot of life experiences in terms of like with family. I don't come from such a traditional family, so a lot of life experience with my mom and dad, and then my grandparents. My mom and dad, they were married for 13 years, and then they split up when I was like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
My dad, it's typical kind of like custody, like go to dad every other weekend and then a couple weeks in the summer.
Sure.
Which he was in another small town not too far away. So that was always fun. Just go over there, ride four-wheelers and hang out. Same thing.
Yeah. 2 households.
Mm-hmm. And then my grandparents lived really close, and so my cousins and aunts. And so I was shuffled around a lot, but my brother is still a big part of my life, helping me mold to who I am today.
I still remember to this day that, when I had met you, we started dating, that if I was going to ever ask for permission to marry you, it was more important for me to ask permission from your brother than it was for me to ask from your dad.
For sure. And not to discredit my dad by any means, but
That's not how I mean it, but yeah.
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 My brother means a lot to me.
Yeah, of course he does. He helped raise you. Do you want to dive into a little bit of that and how he helped raise you? What were those times like? Middle school, high school?
Yeah, a little bit of both. Like I said, my parents were split. My mom, she's doing the best that she can and, living her life too. Her parents were younger, so I have to think back in the shoes of like what age they were. They're in their late 30s when I was, or early 30s. I'm trying to get my timeline right. But my mom was, starting her life. And we went to college for a little bit, but that was short-lived, and came back and helped with the farm and helped with me and helped with everything.
You said that you felt that your brother came back home more, and you felt a little bit of guilt because you felt like he came home because of you being at home, right?
For sure. And yeah, that was also my perspective on how I saw things.
Sure.
Yeah. Of course, I'm only speaking from my experience and what I've saw, growing up.
Yeah.
What I mean with my brother, I don't know how to describe it. It's still, to this day, it cracks me up thinking like how much he did for me, even when I was like 21 meeting you.
Your brother has a big heart.
He does.
He's a big boy and he's a big heart. I love that guy. Still to this day, if she'll go on a flight, he'll text her and ask her to let him know we've been married for almost 11 years now. We have our own children. And he still to this day wants to know, you know,
When
when
we
you're going to be
land.
there, if you made it, where you're at, what's going on. Probably the most upset person that we moved to California, even over my folks
him.
and grandkids. But hands down, your brother would probably was the most emotionally upset in a good way, not like a
yeah, for sure.
bad way. Yeah.
My brother's a big old teddy bear, but he was growing up at that time. He was not as soft as he is now. He
Tell us
definitely
some
had
good stories of growing up with an older brother and all boy, mostly male cousins.
Yeah, I mean, they were assholes, but they were also.
I bet
like,
you were an asshole.
I was. I mean, I was.
Yeah, let's dive into some of these stories.
Cody, my oldest boy cousin, is right there with JJ in terms of like the big influence. I mean, big men in your lives at that age for sure. And
I still remember
they had to
meeting
watch
your
me
cousin
anyways.
and your brother for the first time, which was solid. I'm glad I was the man that I was when I met them, but they're pretty good old redneck guys out of Luther.
And they're not little guys.
Your cousin's 6'5", and he's a thick
It looks like a
guy.
gladiator.
He looks like a Viking, and he's light skinned.
Yeah,
he's a big dude. He was in the army, and he worked for multiple contracting companies after he went to Iraq. So I knew, since I had been out of Iraq and out of the Marine Corps, you know, that he had good experience doing what he doing. He had a Harley. I mean, he was a man's man. He's a man's man. And your brother, I remember he had a huge lifted truck. I mean, it was a cliche redneck experience,
four-wheelers,
but it
hunting.
worked out well because that's exactly where I was in my life as well. So, I mean, I had all the lifted trucks, and so I blended right in. They vet me well, and I withheld who I am, and I think we all became really good friends really quickly, and probably what led us to, you know, being almost, I felt like permission for you to date me longer and to be with me. Because if they didn't like me, I don't know how long we would have stayed together, of course.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely good old boys, but I've never seriously brought anybody to them to be like, please, you know, accept this guy offering. Other guys that I've obviously dated guys before you, and
What? I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
don't tell Presley.
I know, right? Keep going.
But yeah, no, you were my first serious one. I was like, hey, got this Edmund boy coming in.
They're like,
okay?
oh boy, an Edmund
Yeah.
boy. And so for those that don't know that are watching this, if you don't know the dynamic of Oklahoma, like I said, Edmund's a little considered from the Luther perspective. What would you say? Pretentious?
Yeah,
It's
the
the
other side of
probably-
the tracks. I was like, ooh, going up there, you better be getting ready.
As real estate investors now, let's put it this way. Like the average home price in Edmond, Oklahoma is $400,000 like last year. That's the average home sale price. And so that's high for Oklahoma in general. It's one of the more popular, I don't know, I don't even want to call it well-to-do or anything, but it's a nicer suburb area of Oklahoma City. And Luther, when you guys get out of Oklahoma City in general, or Edmond, or any of the suburb towns, and you get more rural areas like Luther, and then, you know, there's Jones, and there's all sorts of stuff back to the east and west, north and south. They're more rural, and they get rural quickly. You find land quickly.
Prominent in farming, yeah.
Farming. They're a good bet. Sometimes you get farming, sometimes you just get rednecks and drugs, like straight up.
And so we're a good mix of both.
And Luther, was a good mix of both.
Yeah.
You get too far certain areas, and you could definitely, Oklahoma has a
F around
massive
and
meth
find
problem.
out,
Yeah.
For sure.
So tell us some funny stories about your brother and your cousin and growing up. I mean, I'm sure you were hell. I know I'm raising two daughters that are spawns of you. So why don't we dive into some of the things your brothers have done to you, or you've done to them? Brother has done, one brother.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know as an angel, but I'm sure they could tell you a lot of.
Let's talk about the time that your brother.
Okay, so in the gas station that we grew up in, my grandpa thought it would be really cool for us to have our own little, like, family kid business, right? So we put in, what was it? Was it Simple Simon's pizza joint?
Yeah, Hunt's.
So was it Hunt's or Simple Simon's?
I think you said Simple Simon's. Doesn't matter.
It was Simple Simon's. Anyways, so us kids ran it right into the ground, but we ran it, right? It was really fun. I remember
Your first entrepreneurial experience.
we were all
What do you remember
making
about it?
whatever we wanted to make and experimenting with
On your own
every
pizzas.
Oh man,
With all the stuff you're supposed to be selling.
yeah.
That's great.
And then I for sure remember one time when I got shoved in the freezer and locked in there with towels. Like they locked the doors with towels. We had a lot of the towels. That's how I got really good at whipping.
Oh, no shit. You were
Those
damn good at that.
rags,
Yes.
those kitchen rags. Yeah. They'd always mess with me. JJ used to always pull me up off the ground and drop me on my head in front of my friends at the house. Like, just jerks.
How light were you?
Until-
Damn.
It was a little, I was
that what's
always a
wrong?
little kid.
Not that little.
But then I also was that kid that played with matches, caught my room on fire. When my brother would piss me off, I'd go get a butcher knife and shove it underneath the door and try to stab him when he locked me out of the house. I did a lot of stuff.
Help.
I mean,
No, let's talk about the time
they provoked me.
They provoked you. Okay, so your brother hunted hogs. He brought hogs home. Let's talk a little bit about some more redneck
This is my
experiences.
brother that would turn on the chainsaw and come in my room in the middle of the night.
Yeah, well, he was
Because
probably tuned up a little drunk.
Okay, so in Luther, our friends had a spook trail for Halloween, like a little course, not an obstacle course, but a thing through the woods,
Yeah,
right?
a spook trail.
Spook trail, you're right. Yeah. And so they would always have chainsaws and without the chain. And he would always, around that time of the year, put his mask on and come light that thing up through the house and scared the crap out of me.
Yeah. Of course he would.
But
so what I want to go to your brother hunted hogs, and he would bring some back sometimes. Then you guys would train pit bulls and stuff like that with the hogs. You know, this is probably not PETA approved, but this is good old redneck stuff. So tell us a little bit more about how that, because you told me your first experience of eliminating the hog or putting it down after it's been essentially gamed up, right?
yeah, we a lot of the dogs that would go hunting with us, they would need some sort of training, right? Either like the Catahoulas or the pit bulls, especially they need to wear vests to help protect them when
because when you have the hogs have like boars, like some of them are boars, so they're wild boars. They can kill dogs.
And so we would live trap them. JJ and his friends would live trap them, and then we would use them to help train the dogs on, and then either go sell them off or we would harvest them. So we got done training one of our dogs on them. I was there for that one, and then when the dogs were done, I won't say made me. I would assume I'm at that age. He's like, "Do you want to?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, go stab it in the heart." And so I took the pocket
put it
knife.
out of its misery. It's all stressed out. Yeah.
I was so dramatic with it. Like I thought you had to come all the way. You don't have to.
You don't have to reach that far back to stab something?
You don't.
These are facts that most people may not know. I've never stabbed something like that unless I was butchering an animal for harvest to eat.
It fed us for the rest of the year, so don't come at me. Wild hog chops are the best.
Yeah. I have to say, Alysha's growing up and who she was when I met her and who I was after I got back from Iraq, I mean, I'll say, we've talked about this before, but it was a good dynamic, and it's probably what I was unable to connect with an average, middle class woman or girl at the time when I came home. I had a hard time because a lot of people come from not necessarily privilege, and I came from a well-to-do family. I mean, a middle-class family, average family, but I had a hard time connecting with anybody that didn't have any real life experience. And so you go through these life experiences, going to the Marine Corps, going to Iraq, going to a foreign country, and some of the things that us Marines talk about and the things that we go through or have done, are a little bit more gruesome to the average Joe. And so when I met somebody I met you specifically, that had your own life experiences, not shy to get your hands dirty, has hunted and fish and like life experiences that have made you who you are. I think that's one of the biggest things that attracted me to you, and we connected on very well. Something else, another funny story that you've told me that I think would be funny to share. Maybe not funny, maybe a little more gruesome still, but tell us about the yard and how yard gets parvo, and what is parvo? So
it's a disease that dogs get sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know a ton about it. We've had litters that get them that after this is, I have a couple of these stories. So I'm trying to think of, now I'm understanding which one you want me to tell you. When dogs get sick, I mean, you could try as much as you can to help them, but ultimately they're not going to make it. So this one particular litter that we had, they got sick, and my brother went out there, and I was like watching him. I saw him digging a hole, and then he came back in and he said, "Take this rifle and go outside and shoot them." And I was like, "No, I'm not doing that."
Did you think he was joking at first?
No, he was not joking. He put all the puppies in the hole. This is the night before. I tried to save one, and it literally blew up everywhere.
Like their guts, intestines.
It just comes out of both ends. It's horrible. It's sad. So they need to be put down. I'm doing it a favor, 100%. So he put all of the puppies in the hole and made me go out there, and I mean, I'm crying with the rifle, killing them, but knowing that I'm helping the situation. I mean, I was probably, I don't know, 16, 17. But yeah, that was wild.
Yeah.
And then the next day you have to it's good to burn all the grass and everything. So just to make sure you get rid of every last part of the parvo, because it can go to the next.
Yeah, it keeps traveling, and all the other animals too.
Yeah. growing out in the country, like I would tap on like waking up in the morning to go work at the store because I worked at the store, especially in the summer early, like 6 to 2 shift or a 2 to 10 shift. Like in the mornings, I would tap on my hood on my truck before I'd start it to make sure there's no cats in there.
Yeah, country living.
And so maybe sometimes I forgot and I turn it over on my truck and you just, I mean, you know it's in your fan.
You just grind up a cat.
Or like just cats out there, just they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're farm
for
cats.
the most part. Or like JJ's mowing their yard one day and I'm walking on the sidewalk and I'm like, what are all these black, hairy, poofy things? Accidentally ran over, I don't know an accident, but he ran over a couple kittens on the lawnmower.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, there's just so many things. I mean, like come across snakes that are out in the yard, then JJ's out there with the lock just going to town on it. Just for
How
fun.
bad? These big boys scared of snakes.
I mean,
I hate snakes, dude.
Finding, I mean, we have a lot of mice out in the country, so like it gets annoying with them. So sometimes, or one time for sure, my brother, he's not an evil person at all, but like,
No, he's a big-hearted guy. He's a very
yeah, I mean,
caring
like
guy.
just like torturing them sometimes.
God dang.
I mean, I was the same kid that also like put salt on slugs and did all the dumb stuff. But
Evil kid shit. I mean, I was guilty of
I
it
mean,
too.
I love animals.
you have a big heart for animals. You really do. It doesn't sound like it though, but I promise she does.
They're gonna come for me.
So let's get up to the point where you and I met. How does that happen? Where did we meet? I mean, I remember how we met. Do you want to dive into it? I want your version of it. The world hasn't heard your version of it.
I went out with a friend that I think we just got done playing a softball game, and then we got ready at my house and went out to Cowboy Bar. And she's like, I have a friend coming and he's bringing a friend, or a guy coming and he's bringing a friend. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I didn't know that this guy was set up to be my double date. And so
I literally thought we were there to
went.
double date. I was informed on the other end of this from my friend and from the girl that she's talking about that this girl knew I was coming. Alysha being this girl.
No,
So I was lied to.
well, that's
And I
not
show
what
up
happened. Okay.
thinking you and I are going to start talking and, literally double date at going to this bar. I don't know what the hell I was thinking I was going to double date there. But anyways, I tried to facilitate a dinner. You didn't know this, probably. Still haven't ever known this. But I did. I said, hey, let's go on a double date. Legitimate double date. And your friend, we know who this is, not a friend now, probably never really was a true friend, just somebody you knew. That person was like, oh, yeah, we will. We'll go to dinner after we have to go to this birthday party. And I was like, okay, I'll show up there. We'll take my truck and we'll go get dinner. That was my perception of meeting you that night. Yeah. So anyways.
I wouldn't have gone anyways.
Well, finish the rest of the story of how we met from that point on.
I mean, I met you there. Like, I remember meeting you at the bar.
Yeah. This is a dance club bar. We're talking like country dancing.
Like, when you walk in, you go through, like, there's, like, a hip-hop area, and then you go to the back, and it's the country area. We were in the country area.
Yeah.
Got me a drink, and then was, like, got introduced to you, and I was like, cool. And then I went around, like, the whole bar area to say hi to other people and hang out. I know other people there, too. And so, and then I came back around. I don't know, maybe it was towards the end of the night, and you're still there. So I went over there and talked to you, as I remember it. And he was not so happy with me. I could just, just had a little attitude. And you had a cigarette in your mouth, and you're trying to talk to me, and I yanked that cigarette out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And put it out. So don't you talk to me with a cigarette in your mouth. You got so mad at me, but you secretly liked it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of people or women that told me what I needed to hear, so I kind of liked it.
But other than that,
Obviously
I didn't give you my number. Didn't want to talk to you ever again.
No,
Said
she
bye.
did not. That's a fact. I was like, well, that was a
Well,
flop. And I had a buddy there, too. I showed up later because I figured out, I was like, dude, I'm fucking stuck on this island.
Yeah.
The one I came with was obviously hanging out with that chick. And I was like alone because you're going off, hanging out with friends.
Hanging
I'm like,
out.
I'm going to call in some reinforcements and people I know to hang out with. So he came with his girl at the time. Anyways,
Then I didn't see you for probably a couple months.
yeah.
Was that? Yeah, Facebook was the thing back then. I had to think about that one.
It was.
And then I ran into you, and then I was mentally in the
little
right
more
position.
clear?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
at the time I met him, I already went through a breakup, and I was like, I'm not even trying to talk to anybody at that point. This time it's given me more time, and I was like, okay. I was like, well, and you were, I don't know, that night you were looking really cute.
This next place we met, we ran into each other on
There's
accident.
another cowboy bar where they ride bulls.
In the bar.
And I said, give me your phone. And I put my number in.
It's still saved as the same way you put it in.
With the
Star.
Because
Alysha,
I wanted
star.
to show up at the very top of your...
Oh, shoot.
I know.
Dang. So we text for a long time after that.
Yeah, I didn't meet you for a while.
I was traveling like from where I was like 2 hours away to a job site every day. And so I would text you along the drive.
Yeah.
And I was like 2 months out that job. And so I would drive back and forth almost every night or stay out there a couple nights. But it was a long drive. So I would just text. Well, not safe, but I was texting.
I went over to your house like on a Sunday evening or Saturday evening.
Like a couple,
You're like, come over and watch a movie. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Told my brother, I may remember saying, me and my brother, I sent him a picture of the gate that I was driving into through the neighborhood.
I had a house in a gated
like,
neighborhood that I had bought when I got back home from Iraq. So I met her after I was out of the military. I met you at, like you said, 22, 23, my age. And I had purchased my house at 21 right after I'd gotten out of the military, Marine Corps. And it was not a large house, but I mean, it's relative to where you live, but it's a 1,700 square foot house. And for you were like, this is baller. And it was a nice house.
It's a gated
especially
neighborhood.
for a 21-year-old.
It was really nice.
Gated neighborhood pool, park, pond, nice spot in Edmond. At that time, I'd gotten the house for like $150,000, which was great. But I was also able to get like.
But I never thought about getting a $150,000 house when I was 21. You know what I mean?
Well, and I have to say that I was because of my parents, right? I grew up in construction. The houses that I was working on my entire life were, $700,000 plus houses. So for me, I was thinking like, this is a good starter home. And I had the funds because I didn't have any expenses when I was in the Marine Corps. When I went to Iraq, I had hardly any expenses whatsoever. I didn't have any. So I saved that money and I was able to use that as the down payment on that house. And my parents co-signed for me, or with me. So,
but
straight up.
Took pictures of your place and then walked in, met you.
You're like, if I die, this is where he is.
I knocked on the door. He didn't even answer the door.
I didn't?
The glass door...
I had a glass door and like a regular door.
But the main door was open, and all I hear was, come on in. I was like, this freaking asshole, right? Like, you can't even get off the couch.
I was pretty arrogant at the time in my life.
You were sitting on the couch. And then before I got there, I was like, please put your dog up. I'm not cool with dogs at that point. It's another time. But I walk in, and I was like, kept walking, and I see you over on the couch. I was like, this is really weird. So I went over there and sat by you. I was kind of weirded out, to be honest. And then you're like, I don't know.
I didn't put my dog up, and you were scared, and I didn't know.
You did put him up, but you let him back in, and I was like, "What the hell?" And he was a red pit bull, and so I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Of course, it's sweetheart.
Long story short, Alysha had been attacked by dogs in the past. We'll go into it later, but I want people to know that. That's why you were scared of dogs, especially growing up where you were. So not that long ago from that.
No,
point.
it was
less than a year ago.
It was a little
year
fresh.
Before that. So that's why she was scared of dogs. I was like, "What the fuck? This country girl's scared of dogs doesn't make sense." I'm leaving the dog in. Once she meets him, she'll be fine. And so, yeah. From your perspective, I see it now.
Yeah.
But stay tuned for the rest of the story on how we got to know each other and a little bit more history about Alysha on the next one. Subscribe, like, and comment. Let us know if you have any questions for the next one. Let's go.